Hola, hola. This is your boy Tico, Tren. And this one's going to be about a goofy ass male SJW that I got into an argument with at a supermarket over saying the most dumbest shit in the world because he had no clue what the fuck he was talking about because he's so used to the leftist talking points. He says the dumbest shit in the world. And this kid is like long hair, white, you know, perfect soy boy material for all intents and purposes. He's straight, but he's a soy boy. And he believes a certain thing and he believes certain talking points. And the sad part about that is he started talking about other countries when it came to the COVID virus. Now, this is at the beginning of the COVID virus when Costa Rica only had about, I think, at that time, Costa Rica only had about they had about like 400 and something cases of COVID. Most of them had came from like outside sources that were traveling to Costa Rica. So this idiot basically was saying that how all the rest of these countries can't do anything because they don't have anything to test what they test COVID and this, that, and the other. And he started talking out his ass basically. Now, mind you, he works at Giant Eagles. And the sad part about it, this was like a while ago. So he works at Giant Eagles and he's telling these bull-faced lies and trying to sound like he's intelligent when he's really not. And I happened to overhear him and I told him about it. I was like, that's actually false. Actually work in the medical field, and that's actually way false. And he goes, well, you don't know what you're talking about. It's like all these other countries, and they can't afford to buy these kits and this, that, and the other. I go, a lot of the countries have on minimum about 52,000 kits on minimum. There might be some other countries that have less than that, but typically on like a good example, like a good example. I told him about the time when the one African country bought like about 52,000 kits. And the president of the country actually tested it, and he tested it on papaya fruit and he tested it on a goat, and it came back positive for papaya fruit and goat. So he fired his head of the medical director because he had a bunch of faulty fucking kits. Does it happen? Yes. Unfortunately, it did happen. And the sad part about that is he had to send them back, and he fired the person, and now his country's without kits for the fact that he had a bunch of faulty kits. And he's like, well, that's different. That's faulty kits. I go, good example. Where I come from. I mean, where my grandmother's from, Costa Rica. We have about like 62,000 kits. But they only have like 500 cases right now. Well, that's because they don't. I mean, no. I said no. I didn't say anything about the kits at first. I go, like a good example of that is Costa Rica only have like 500 cases. We'll even go on a limb and say they have 600 cases of coronavirus. They're perfectly fine right now, and they were able to test them. He goes, well, they're that low because they don't have any kits. I go, they have 62,000 kits. They have all the kits in the world that they need, but they don't have 62,000 people to test them on because nobody needs it right now. So he goes, it's probably because they can't afford it. No, they can afford it. They have free healthcare in Costa Rica. Nice try again. And it's one of those things where, like, you argue with a liberal for a while, you find out very quickly how stupid that liberal is because he's running on pure emotions. And it's sad to listen to a liberal run on pure emotions. He goes, well, you don't know that about Costa Rica? I go, yes, I do. I'm from Costa Rica. This is why I know this information about Costa Rica. So then he just got mad. He goes, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, that typical smug leftist ideology, white. That it's like you ever get it's funny how they always talk about how the right does this smugness and this condescending thing when in fact they do it more than the right does. Like I could talk to a white guy on the right. He goes, oh, I can see that, this, that, and the other, and he would think logically about it and be like, yeah, cool logic. And like I talk to somebody on the left, it's all about emotions and they just want to be smug and they always want to have that gotcha moment. And the sad part about that, even when they don't have the gotcha moment, they always try to pull a gotcha moment on you. And it's sad watching people do this shit. And I've always wondered why people did this, and it just blows my mind watching white liberals do this shit. It's like you know nothing about what you're talking about. You're merely trying to virtue signal for no fucking reason whatsoever. Why don't you just shut the fuck up for once and actually do some actual learning for once? And the sad part about that, he was saying how all these other countries don't have any kits and this, that, and the other. And it's sad how America got kits and all these other countries don't have these kits. And I go, other countries do have kits. This one country in Africa actually had kits. They had to send them back because they were faulty. Everybody has kits. The question is, do they have the motherfuckers to test them on? That is the question. And then he goes, well, Pennsylvania has these high cases and everybody should be locked down. I go, that's funny because, places like, it was a couple of the 7 states that didn't do lockdown, they have lower cases of COVID virus and they're doing perfectly fine. All the stores are open, they're open normal hours and all this other great shit. So explain why these states don't have low cases, have very, very low cases of coronavirus, and they're not participating in lockdown. Well, they're probably lying about their numbers. No. They have to go through the CDC just like everybody else, and they test everybody just like everybody else. And there's about 7 states open right now, wide the fuck open, who's not participating in the lockdowns, that literally have 0 to no problems with the ridiculous numbers of COVID virus cases. Like, let that sink in. He goes, well, you don't know that for sure. I go, yeah, I do. I actually work for the health department. I know this shit. I actually work for the CDC. I've actually worked for the CDC, and I work for the CDC, and I know these things about this stuff. I do research. I'm in a research business, so I know all these things. I know how this shit works. So you can't sit up here and tell me that states all of a sudden are lying about their cases when, in fact, you're sitting up here lying to push a narrative that you know nothing about. And this is the problem that I've always had with leftist people. It's always a narrative that they're trying to press. The sad part about that is they use no logic when they do it. They use very little to no logic when they do it. And the sad part about that is it doesn't matter if they have no logic. Logic doesn't fucking matter. Trying to argue logic with a person that's illogical is like trying to tell Clayton Bigsby that he's not white. I mean, that's basically what it really is. And when it comes down to it, it's sad to watch people who believe a certain thing or believe a certain narrative, and it's like logic has no bearing in this society anymore. They just want to push a narrative to virtue signal anymore. They want to push their narrative. They want to push a narrative and feelings and virtue signal at the same damn time. It doesn't fucking matter what the facts are. Fuck all facts. They go out the window. And this is basically what leftists do. This is why when I always talk to people in the manosphere or people outside the manosphere who be like, well, facts don't care about feelings. Well, yeah, no. In this day and age, feelings are trump every fucking thing, no matter if you like it or not. Feelings trump everything. So if you can't get somebody to feel a certain way, you'll never get somebody to come to your side. You can't logically sit up here and talk to people. You got to use feeling to talk to people so they can actually understand the gravity of shit, unfortunately, in this day and age. Because the sad part about that, you can spit all the facts in the world, but if you can't capitalize on somebody's feelings or tap into that person's feelings, they won't know shit and they won't believe anything that comes out of your fucking mouth at all. And this is the problem that a lot of people have. This is the problem with a lot of people have. They're always trying to preach, facts. I'm spitting facts. The sad part about that, facts don't fucking matter. If you can't get over if you can't tap that person's feelings while you're spitting facts, the person would never get it. Basically, like I always say, never argue with somebody who doesn't want to receive your argument or that's not trying to listen to your argument, because you're doing nothing more than devaluing your argument at that point. And the sad part about that is nobody wants to listen, and everybody always wants to try to, push their argument because they want to spit these facts when in fact they're not facts. I mean, they're facts, but nobody's listening, so they don't really matter. So all your facts are falling on deaf ears. And just because you're spitting them, that don't mean anybody's picking them up or getting it. That's the cold hard truth. But we live with a group of people who don't want to accept that, and they keep on thinking that they're right because they got quote-unquote facts. It's sad. It's very sad. But I digress. Adios.